Good evening, everyone. I'm Samuel, and I'll be taking the short training on code commit process. Okay. So as Wilfred already mentioned, I think most of you guys would have finished library, or you will be in between or the fag end of the development part of that particular library. So this will be the right time to take up this training. So yeah, what we'll be going through today is the different details that we need to pay attention when we are going to commit the code into Applib's repo. So the various things that we have is SDK tool chains, external dependencies, and a static tool report, test report, and some information regarding copyright and license, and also a documentation part that is with the ReadMe and a tech document, and also about DCO signing, that is developer certificate of origin, and some pointers about logs and generated files. So any query or anything that you don't understand, you can stop me in between and then you can ask. We'll try to clarify it then and there. Okay. Cool. The first thing is the SDK and tool chains. So whenever we are developing any library, it's best to use the latest tools that we have. So for our library components, I think most of you guys would be working on Material UI. So for that, I think we are following compile SDK version 7 and compatible SDK version, not 7, I mean 8, and then compatible SDK version 8. So all of the components or all of the projects should be having API version 8 to have the uniformity. Okay. And anything less than that, I think it will be found out in the review. So just make sure all of the code commits are going by 8. Basically, when you're trying to create the project itself, there will be an option to select the API version. So just make sure you're selecting it. So the same will be followed in your config file as well. This you can find out in the build profile JSON. Okay, let me just show it to you in the code where you can find it. There will be three. Okay, we have several configuration files within our projects, if you have observed. So each of those files will be present 3 times. Basically, within your project, there will be build profile JSON and a package JSON. These are the main config files. And inside the entry also, there will be a build profile JSON and then a package file. This is basically your sample app. And within your library module also, there will be a build profile JSON and package JSON. So most of the configurations will be happening in these 2 files. So whatever I just told you, that would be in your build profile JSON of the project. So just make sure it is pointing to 8. Okay. The second part would be the external dependencies. So in case you are using any external library or any external module within your library or your sample application, maybe you have added it for some testing, a particular feature, or you might have added it for reference of some sample code. Later you would have realized it is not required, or actually you're not requiring it for your module. Then you'll have to make sure you're removing it. So any dependencies, usually we add it in the dependencies section of your package JSON. So just make sure there are no extra dependencies in the dependencies sections of your package JSON file. So let me again show it to you in the code where it will be present. You'll have 3 package JSONs. So anything that you will require in your entry, that will be present in your entries package JSON. So here we are just depending on the library module, that is material fab. So only that dependencies are added. And inside material fab, we are not depending on any dependencies. So it is only the code that we have written within the material fab. So there is no external dependency over here. And within the project, there will be few dependencies basically for your build system to work. So each and every project has to compile. And this HarmonyOS project being built on HVigor build system, will require few external dependencies for it to compile and build successfully. So these are added. Just make sure you're not removing these three when you're checking this point during your self-review. Okay. And next one would be static tool report. So any code repository will have a CI configured. So CI as in it is a pipeline wherein you push in your Git commits, which will be compiled by the CI. And if any issues are there, we'll have to fix those issues, and only after that the Git commit will be or Git check-in will be merged to the repository. So in the CI for Applibgroup, there is a tool called Sonar Cloud that is integrated. So any issues that are thrown from this tool, we will have to fix them. So any critical or major issues, just make sure you are handling them. And if it is minor and if it is not having much impact, then you can discuss with your mentor, and then you can avoid handling it as long as it is not having much impact. But all the critical and major issues have to be handled. So this is how it looks. This is the dashboard of Sonar Cloud. You can search over here. So material fab, this already committed the code. So this is how it will be. If there are any issues, it will show what all issues will be present. Just make sure you go through it. There will be a description of the issue as well. Just we need to fix those issues. Okay. And the next one being test report. Each and every library component will have to document the test cases for the particular library component. So all the test cases should be feature wise. So let me just okay. So why are we asking you to document the test cases? Because today you are working on particular library component. Later, after a few months, maybe someone else is taking up your library component and trying to add some feature. So when he adds in some code on top of your code, we must make sure that your code is not affected by the incoming code. So the person who adds the new code can make sure that all your features are intact and there is no feature that is being broken because of the newly written code. So for that purpose, we will have to document every feature. Basically, when I say feature, you might have a library component or a material UI component. So every attribute that you have created for that particular component, or every behavior that you have created for that particular component, you can document it. So this is a sample. So you can refer this template and then you can document it accordingly. So here, this is a UI component in itself, material letter icon. So basically, to give a glimpse of what is this UI component, you might have seen in contacts there would be an icon present for each contact, right? So contact name. So that contact can be customized with various shapes, be it a circle or a triangle or a rectangle, and the text within it also. Usually it will be the first letters of your name, contact names. So it could be first 2 letters or first 3 letters, whatever be it. So this is a UI component that gives us a functionality similar to a letter icon. So for this, these are the different features or the attributes that are given. So that is what is documented, and you can write few different scenarios or maybe some negative scenarios also you can document, and then you can add it up in this test report. So this is what is expected in the test report. Also, this test report will be added as an artifact during the GitHub release. So this is a mandatory document. Okay, and after that we will be we need to pay attention towards copyright and license. So for all the new files that we are going to add into the repo, maybe there are a few files which you would have written from the scratch. I think most of the code that we would have written for material UI would be done from scratch. maybe there will be few exceptions. So all those files we will have to have Applibgroup copyright. Just make sure you're adding them. Yeah, for all the new files, we need to add the Applibgroup copyright, and for all the modified files, maybe you're taking some file from the base repository, and then you're just making few changes. So most of the changes as it is before, but only few lines of code you have changed. So in those scenarios, you can retain the existing copyright if it exists. If it does not exist, then you need not add any copyright to it. Just keep it as it is. Okay. So the copyright that we will have to be adding is this is the copyright that you can use. So this is what has to be present in all the newly written files. You will have to add it at the top of the files. Okay, basically at the top of all the JS or the TS or the ETS files you will have written. Just add it at the top of the files. That should be okay. And apart from this, we will also have to include the license file. The complete license file needs to be included within your repo. So the file that we need to include for Apache license would be this. The reference is already given. The link is also given over here, so you can refer this. And you can simply download this or copy this and then paste it in your repo. That is it. We should not be doing any changes in this file. Okay. And in some cases, in material components, there is no such case as this. But in some libraries, there will be a case where the copyright or the license that is being used is MIT license. That is also an open source license. So in that case, what we will do is we will have to include MIT license and also the Apache license, because if we have created any new files, that will be going under Apache license always. So we will have to include both the licenses. And for the copyright part, whatever the files that was already present, that is under MIT license, let that have the copyright of MIT, and whatever files we have added from our side, that will be having the Apache 2.0 copyright. Okay. Yeah, coming to the next one, that is ReadMe and library tech document. ReadMe is nothing but the documentation that we will have for any repository or any library that we will develop. So that should include the usage instructions and the installation instructions, and also the various exposed APIs. And also if you have used, if you have referred some base library, that information also you should be including. And also the license and the copyright information at the end of the README, if you include, that is well and good. And also just make sure you're not including some keywords like Harmony OS, Android, or HMOS, because we will be working on Open Harmony, and these are different OSs. So we will try to stick with Open Harmony keyword itself, not with anything that relates with Harmony OS, Android, or HMOS. Okay. And apart from README, we will also have to document a library tech, basically a technical document. So let me just show it to you what it is. So again, why do we need to do this document? Because this document will be used to publish in some forums or any or do a Medium article or any kind of articles, so that we can bring more limelight to your particular library component that you have developed. So this will be very basic description. Just you can follow this format: library name, version, release date, some description on it, then screenshots. This will be, you can reuse the information that you have used it for README, but just fill up this document in this format. That is it. Okay. And after this, we will have to, the next one is DCO signing, Developer Certificate of Origin. So for this, all people who are actually contributing some code to Applibgroup community have to do this. So to do this, you just have to Go in here. This is the URL where you need to go. So you will be using an email ID for committing it, right? Committing or doing a git check-in. So just fill in your name, your email address, and then the verification code. This is basically like an OTP. So once you do that, just click on this checkbox and hit agree. After that is done, you can simply go back, query, and then enter your email address and check if it is signed or not. So if it is signed, then you're good to go. This process has to be done before you commit, before you do a git commit. So before you do any check-in, just make sure you're doing the DCO signing. Okay. So once you do this during your git commit, just make sure you're using this argument. So ideally during your git check-in, we will add the uncommitted files into the staged area. So we'll make them as so basically your uncommitted or the files that are in unstaged area will go to staged area. After that, you'll be giving a git commit command. So this during this git commit command, you'll have to add this attribute because we are doing a DCO sign. Once you do this, after your commit, there will be a note under your commit saying this was signed off by such and such a person. Your email ID will be mentioned there. So this is required after the DCO signing during your git commit. This you can give only if you have signed, if you have done the DCO signing. Otherwise, this will not work. Okay, hope this is clear. And after this, yeah, there is some pointers about the logs and generated files. So when you're, it is always good to use logs, but try to avoid printing unnecessary logs. Maybe in some cases we have found there are many unnecessary logs which are basically of no use. Even without that, we can read the code and understand. Usually we use it for debug. So whatever logs you've added during the debug, you can remove it. And whatever error logs that you have added, just make sure you're not printing any sensitive information when you're printing the logs, especially when you're using a try catch block. In the catch block, you might get an error object. So just make sure you're not printing the error object directly because it will be printing the stack trace. So it will give up some information regarding the framework as well. So just do not print any error objects directly from the catch block. Just make sure you use your customized string or some custom information which you have, which the developer will give it. So you can use that information in the catch block. And regarding generated files, let me just show it to you. Maybe I'll show, yeah. Whenever you import some project into an IDE, there will be, and when you try to build the project also, there will be few folders that will be created. If you see over here, there is .idea folder that is created. This idea folder will be created when you import a project into your IDE. So all the config files related to your IDE will be stored over here. This build folder will be created when you compile the project. Node modules will happen if you have any dependencies over here. All these dependencies will be stored on this. So these are all generated files during your compilation or when you have used it within an IDE. These files should not be included during your git commit. This will ideally consume a lot of space. So, and these will be redundant files. Whenever you again import it in any of the project, the IDE will try to add its own configuration files. So there is no use of committing these and then reusing them because the IDE will take care of it automatically anyways. So just make sure you're not adding these files. These build node modules will be present in each of these folders. Just make sure you're not adding them during your git commit. You can avoid that by including that information in .gitignore. So if you add the files that needs to be ignored during the git commit, just add those folders over here. So that will make sure that your these folders will not be committed during git commit. Okay. After that also you will have to recheck if in case that as the folders are still being committed, you can manually anyways delete them. So just make sure you're not committing these files into your repo. Yeah, these are the main points that needs to be focused. I think if you guys have any queries, you can.
Sir, can you please explain about the test report again?
Sure. Yeah, so this is the test report that I've shown you. Okay, what I meant was each and every attribute, or say for example, let me explain you what this UI component is. I think that will give you a clearer picture. Yeah, this is material letter icon. Okay, so here you can see that there is a letter icon that is created for Albania. So this is 3-letter icon, and here it is just taking the first letter over here. So this is how this component is built. This is basically customized, and the application can create or customize the icon as to based on his need, basically. So this is how you can customize and use this icon. So these are the various features that it has. So if you see the report, how the documentation is done, the color can be customized, type can be customized, border size, border color, and the border in itself, and the letter. Each of these attributes are different things that can be changed or varied from the application, and then that can be called within the library. So these are basically the various input calls that go into your input or your feature calls that go into your library. So all of these can be tested, and whatever feature that you have implemented, that needs to be tested and documented over here.
This training will be editing and uploading in the YouTube. So we can go through this later on if you have any doubts. So regarding this test report, when we are asking a test report other than this Excel file, we are also asking to attach also the static report along with that. So that's maybe Satyajit's query. When we are GitHub release, we are adding static report also and this Excel report also.
Yeah, static report would be just the screenshot of this. So there is nothing much that we need to work on. So if all the issues are passed, we can simply take a screenshot of this and then attach it as a static report. Test report is the only document that we'll have to work on. So that is why it was focused. So we'll have to follow this template that is present here. So we'll have to document each test case as per this